Monica.
I'm Shay.
And I'm Tarvis.
And I'm Veronica. And we're going to be talking about great people in Black history. So we have some good men and some good women that we're going to be talking about. And we're just going to open it up.
Amen.
And have a good time. But I have a guy. Right. I have a guy that I don't believe I've heard of him before. I know some people have, but I just thought it was interesting about this man because he has done so much. I'm not going to be able to touch half the stuff he's done today.
Oh, wow.
So I'm just going to hit on the major stuff. It's Bayard Rustin. And one thing about Bayard Rustin, he fought for racial equality, for workers' rights, and later in life, it was also gay rights. This is something that we've heard of. He worked with Martin Luther King on the March on Washington, but he was like the mind behind it.
Really?
Right.
So he organized it.
He organized it. But because he was also a gay man,
he didn't get recognized.
With any civil rights things that he does, he was like behind the scenes for everything. So, but when I say this man was amazing, he was amazing. Like he's worked in Africa. Mm-hmm. He's worked with Gandhi. He's worked with so many people. He devoted his whole life, like the stuff that I read about him, and like he's just an amazing person. I just find it kind of, I wanted to use him because I was going back and forth with another man, but I really wanted to bring notice to him because of the fact that I think it's kind of sad that all the work that this man put in, he had to basically hide behind the scenes because of his sexuality.
So many taboo things kept him. Well, didn't keep him from doing his good work, though.
Right, because he kept going. He kept doing what he
kept doing what he had to do.
Yeah,
but and that's. I was going to ask that question. He was always behind the scenes because he was gay.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
And part of the time,
so people in the civil rights knew of him. Right. They worked with him. But as far as like the person they put out there to be the face of the civil rights movement, he was not that.
Oh, wow.
Oh, okay.
So
interesting. So many people. So have you ever got recognized for anything?
Okay, great. I'm glad I almost forgot about that. So yeah, in 2013, he got he received the President Medal of Freedom by Barack Obama.
Oh, awesome. Really? It took that long?
Yes.
Wow. Nothing like posthumous honors. Even though you've died and on, your legacy continues. And we didn't learn, there's so many people in Black history that we didn't learn about in school. We learned about, the George Washington Carver. That's probably the most popular inventor that we heard of as children coming up. But I love the fact that there's so many other Black people and people of color behind the scenes that made some impact. That's a good one.
Yeah, that is right. Good one. And I encourage everyone to go out just to look at everything in his journey, because when I say it's a long journey, the timeline, his timeline is like, I was like, oh my God, maybe I shouldn't do him because I'm not gonna be able to do him justice. But but I definitely encourage everyone just to go and just look at all the accomplishments that he's done for our people.
Okay. And you know what's really disheartening to me is that our history is minimalized in every front. In school, it's almost like they pick and choose who they want the world to know about. But if we really think about it, the majority of the things that we have in the world were created and invented by us. But yet we are the most disproportionate race on the planet. And it's just, I don't want to get on my soapbox. But it's just really interesting to me.
It is. And it's sad that you're right. They're almost like, no, they choose who they want to be in the forefront. Yeah. That's
absolutely.
Definitely. So I agree.
Because I wonder what our history books would look like if the true history was presented to the world.
Don't even get me started on how history for all people of color has been hidden.
Yes.
Right. Another episode where we talk about the Native Americans in the country. I found myself down a rabbit hole on TikTok a couple of weeks ago. And if you look up the hashtag Indigenous TikTok, you will be in tears seeing Americans and the things that they were fighting for. So while African-American people in this country we were fighting, there was a whole nother fight going on before that and during that with our Native American brothers and sisters. So maybe we'll do we'll have to do another episode.
Yeah, find some guests and stuff. Yeah, that's yeah.
I have a really good person to do that with. I couldn't get her because it was too short of a time period of me asking, but I have a really great person for that.
Good. We can definitely realize.
You know, we always ask each other, have you been watching this? Have you watched this? Have you guys watched Everything Will Be All White?
No, I've never even heard of it.
Oh my God, it's a docu-series.
On what
and
platform?
it talks about what we just explained, how we aren't represented correctly in history.
What platform is the documentary on?
It is on, hold on, HBO, Showtime. I'm going to figure that out by the time.
But
And I'm gonna because
right?
let me tell you, it's been, I think, 2 or 3 episodes, but I find myself wavering between tears and anger. Because I'm like, I've always wanted to know, what is it about us that makes makes the Caucasian race so afraid? And it's because of our intelligence and our level of survival is unmatched. Unmatched.
But you got to think about it, though. Us as Black people, we need to step out in the forefront to bring awareness to a lot of things and show ourselves in the light that we want to be seen.
Yeah.
So if we actually put out that we can't wait for someone else to tell our story.
And I think we have stopped waiting to a certain extent. Like that's why these huge movements are out. People are putting museums up everywhere talking about, and we're doing something.
Yeah.
Things like this right here, bringing attention to lesser known or less credited people for the invention.
Exactly.
So yeah, that's right. The movement is still here, even though these pictures are black and white for most of these people we're featuring today. It's all in color now, and it's real life. And
right.
Like to take it and roll with it. So Tarvis, why don't you roll into your beautiful Black person that was a pioneer or inventor?
Well, her name is Sarah E. Good.
Hey,
she was
Sarah.
born in 1850.
Hey,
she died in 1905. She was born into slavery. And what's really interesting about her, because I find it so amazing that in today's time, or as time evolved from slavery, it was like, oh, women can't do this. You just only supposed to be a housewife or whatever. But she married a gentleman by the name of Archibald. He was a carpenter, and they owned a furniture company. And working class people lived in small apartments, because of their race, and, their space was confined. And she actually is the inventor of what's known as the Murphy bed. It was called a folding cabinet back in the day. And she actually got her patent in 1885. She was the first African American to get her trademark for her invention in 1885.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, when we look back in history, it's not gender specific, the roles.
Right.
It was what we needed to do to survive. And the fact that it's not her husband that did it, it's her. She saw a need. And that just leads me to believe, that's why I think, and I'm not being biased because I am her, but the most powerful person on the planet is a Black woman, because we gonna do what we need to do to make it happen. And the fact that she was selfless and said, well, let me help my brothers and sisters out.
Yeah.
Let me find a solution to a problem.
Right.
So I was just in awe, and it rang very dear to my heart because my dad was a carpenter. So when I saw that, I was like, wow, a woman, not a man, a woman had the wherewithal in her mind to say, there's got to be something we can do.
I can improve something.
Right.
Yes. Yes. So Sarah E. Good is my home skillet. I'm gonna have to get a t-shirt made with Sarah E. Good. Maybe laying in a Murphy bed, you know what I mean?
Right. For people that don't know what a Murphy bed is, if you've ever seen like some of those old school TV shows where they're in a small apartment or a small like studio space, it's that bed that folds down from the wall.
Yeah.
So literally, and then when you put it up, it folds back up and you don't even know it's there, but you fold it down. So that's, you know, they don't tell us that. They don't tell us something like that.
Right.
They don't tell us that. So we've
seen that's great, especially back then. And then and not only just a woman in general to be able to do that. So I just think that that's just great because back then it wasn't like, you know, we were able to do a lot of things in the forefront of things. So just I was looking at some of her stuff too when I was looking at photos and I was like, oh wow. So yeah.
Well, you know what's interesting about this, y'all? I'm sorry, Shay, before you jump in, I just want to say, since we are now fighting the man and woman pay gaps and all that different stuff, when do we think that these things set in where men and women started to be separated as not equal? Because for a long time, it was just race not equal. So when did we flip from race not being equal to the sexes not being equal? Because
I think it's always been there.
Yeah, we might have to do an episode on that. I really, now that you mentioned, I really want to know when it started. But it would have been way before slavery and stuff like that.
Yeah, because it's always been like that.
Because we all were.
Look at the people in Africa. Look at the people in other countries. Way. Like women were always kind of put in the back of men. You didn't have unless you went to like Egypt. Like you learn the story of Egypt and stuff like that. But for the most part, there's some cultures that did uphold women as like superior in some ways because of birth and because of things that they can withhold in pain and all those things that men couldn't. But for the most part, you know, you hear like in our, especially in our culture and just remembering the times, even before people even came here during the slavery trade, it was always women couldn't really speak on things like that.
Or we just had roles that we had to stay
in. We had to stay in that role.
It's just interesting because even when we start talking about Black inventors, women are still kind of the last to be talked about.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And so I don't know. I just always wondered, when did these different? It's like when one problem seems to go away, another one pops up, and it's like, how many more fights are we going to have?
So many.
Yeah,
so many.
Now, next up, Shay, who is this beautiful, beautiful woman?
Yes, I'm so excited
today. So tell us about this woman.
Girl, so excited. So I was having trouble finding. I wanted a current person. I needed somebody that if I couldn't talk to, I could at least get information about them. And I'm real big on learning other struggles that Black people went through in other countries and things of that nature, and other like environments that we're not familiar with as far as when it came to the race, the slavery trade and all of those things that our ancestors went through. There are other people that went through things. I can't compare them, but they went through a lot of things too. And so I came across this young lady named Stella Dadsey. Stella Dadsey is so exciting to know that there's someone who really puts out the story of everyday women, the things that they went through and everything. So I want to start off with a little bit of talking about her when she was growing up and things of that nature. Stella Dadsey was born in London in 1952 to an English mother and a Ghanaian father. Her mother and father divorced, and her mother struggled with homelessness. She struggled with instability, poverty, and after the divorce, Stella found herself in the custody of her parents basically her mother couldn't take care of her, so she ended up going into the foster home. She was there for a little while. Then Stella was placed back with her mother, and Stella was given a place at a boarding school where things started to change for her at the age of 8. At the age of 12, Stella reconnected with her father. Now, in this time between the time her mother divorced her dad and she went through all of the trials and tribulations with just being in that, because her mother was very, she was in a situation to where she was taking care of a young Black child, and she was getting hit just as hard as Stella was when it came to racial differences. So when she reconnected with her dad, her father had lived in Paris, and he became educated, and he was a Ghanaian ambassador in Paris. And Stella became involved with the Black Liberators. It was a theoretical discussion journal for Black revolution. Let me tell you something about Sarah. Stella became a feminist pioneer. The Black British women's movement was life and death issues. Stella sat with women and got their stories of all of the horrible things that happened to them. And she was able to put this information into a book, and she was able to put this information and go and speak to other people. And she had so much that she had going for her. Well, she still has going for her, as far as like how she's able to reach from the poor all the way up to the rich with her way of being. She documented the life of Black women in Britain. She also helped founded the campaigning feminist and anti-racist group organization for women of Asian and African descent in 1978. One of the things I love about Stella has written a lot of, she either wrote the books or she was co-writer of the book. She was always into all different types of organizations, founded so many organizations for Black women and women of color. One of the books that I started kind of reading, and I was like, wow, this is awesome. The one book I liked, it was called The Heart of the Race. She was a co-writer of that book, and it helped draw attention to the overlooking of atrocities, including racism in schools, police brutality, death in the hands of police. Like, she just went to the things that we're going through right now. She's looking like, I thought we didn't already been through this. Because you got to remember, she didn't actually go through the same things as far as our ancestors did. So it's almost like they went through this stuff we're going through years ago. You know what I mean? Like, she was in the place where she wasn't enslaved, but she was in a place where she was always discriminated, and it was always thrown in her face of her being a Black woman.
So she started
all these other people that were not Black.
So she started a movement based on being oppressed in her country. Because a lot of times people feel like African American history is the only like negative Black history.
Right.
Yeah. When you go over the water, there are people. I mean, even in the motherland too. But like, there are so many.
Even Australia.
Yeah.
If you read the information, I watch different documentaries of women in Australia of color, the stuff that they went through. And another book that Stella just actually wrote, like probably in the last 2 years, I think it's 2018, I believe, is called Kick in the Belly. Kick in the Belly. Mm-hmm. That book, I can't wait to get that book. I need to read that book. This book, she really focused on the story of the beginning of Africa, and it traces the journey of women across the Atlantic to the plantations and beyond. Stella wanted to show the ties, empowerment, and strength, and the surviving enslavement of colonialism. Can you say it right? Shared in history. What I can say about Stella is an activist. Stella is a teacher and an educator. Stella is a feminist and a historian. She is awesome. I can't even tell you all the stuff. She has gotten awards from all over. She has done so much. It's like crazy, and she's still doing it. Still out here doing it.
So let me ask this question, because you said she was a part of a movement. So would that kind of be like what? Movements. Right, but would that kind of be like on a Black Panther level, or it was strictly just women.
So she was very much a feminist. She really focused a lot on women, British women, and the atrocities that they went through. And she actually wrote a book lining the things that these women. She sat with these women and she wanted to hear their stories. And it's in her book that she wrote with another individual.
She basically took people's stories and brought
the world. Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's again, awesome. I say we are the most powerful creatures on the earth. You hear me? We will go through the wall. We will take a lot. Yeah. We will take a lot. We are so selfless. We're so selfless.
Yeah.
And to know her story, to know that she was this little girl being raised by this white woman who now she have no ties with her father for a very long time. So she don't have the understanding of who she is. Mm-hmm. But she's been told who she is by everyone else around her.
Mm. Wow.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah. So since Miss Stella's still alive, does she have Instagram? Because we telling people to go check the history books for our people, but where's Miss?
Right.
Where can we find her?
I actually looked when I was looking for the picture for that too. Also, she does also.
Yeah, she has
on Twitter and stuff like that.
Yeah, she's on Twitter.
I love it.
She's hooking up. She's
really.
You can see her on.
She on Twitter.
Stuff. I think it was also on Facebook.
Yeah, she hosts conference. We're gonna have to do one. Like get ourselves into one of her things and listen to her stuff because she hosts because I was looking at awesome. And I was like, oh, this lady is current.
Yeah, when I saw the color picture, I'm like, okay, people still making it. Okay, that's good. So we've talked about two beautiful women back to back. So let me take it out and round us out with another Black man.
Yes.
Some positivity. Now, we have all heard the phrase. I was going to save this little snack for the end, but I'm going to just start off like that because have you all heard the phrase, the real McCoy?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So that phrase, and I'll give you all the history, but that was coined after the late, great Elijah McCoy. So Elijah McCoy is an inventor. And like Shay's figure that she talked about today, he was also born outside of the United States. He was actually born in Canada. Mm-hmm. His parents were slaves in Kentucky. They escaped and they made their way to Kentucky where they had they made their way out of Kentucky into Canada where they had 10 of their 11 children. So most of their children were born in Canada, and the family did, after they got their freedom, came back to the United States in 1847 when he was 3 years old. So he became a citizen at 3. Now, this guy, he has 57 patents to his name. 57. As if you don't make one thing and become a gold, like he has 57.
You said 57?
57 patents to his name, most having to do with the lubrication of steam engines, which was his most popular invention, was an oil cup. So we know steam engines were the way of the working world back then. That's transport, that's logistics. That was the way things were getting moved from place to place. And he created a cup that would drip oil as needed into the lubrication system for these steam engines, helping them to run more efficiently. And that was his biggest patent. And that was the one that made him the most money, even though he wasn't out for the money, that made him the most money, so much money to the point that people started to copy, or they thought they were copying. They would get his stuff, go back to the lab, try to make one, and it was not good. So the real McCoy came about because people who were buying his stuff in the beginning worked perfectly on their steam engines, perfectly. But then, they need another one. They go to re-up somewhere else. And it's like, well, this one is not doing as well as the other one. So come back and say, I want the real McCoy. Is this the real McCoy system? I don't want the other
wow.
Real McCoy system. So that phrase, the real McCoy, came because people were out here bootlegging his stuff. They was before CD burning was bootlegging. They were bootlegging this man's oil cup. So the real McCoy came as that. But he is an historical figure. His family settled in the Detroit area, Ypsilanti, Michigan first, and then finally in Detroit, where he has a couple of historical markers that have been placed in his honor, starting with the state of Michigan putting a historical marker at the former home on Lincoln Avenue, which is still there, and that is his gravesite.
Really?
In 1975, Detroit celebrated Elijah McCoy Day by placing a historic marker at the side of his home and also named the nearby street for him. In 1994, Ypsilanti, Michigan installed a historical marker at his first workshop. So how would it feel to go into a workshop where somebody in the 1800s was sitting there with no computer, no phone, no dictionary, nothing to look up how to do anything, and he's sourcing parts to create something that's going to go on and still be used to this day? Hundreds.
That's awesome.
150 years now.
This is all I can say to that is.
Okay. Amen.
Right.
There are two more quick points. He was inducted into the National Inventors Hall of Fame in 2001. So even
What?
they recognize your accomplishments. That's why it's important to, even if you don't think you'll see the accomplishment make light in your day, y'all, your grandchildren, your great grandchildren, be here to claim that name and say, wow, that's my ancestor. I'm happy.
Right.
And then lastly, in 2012, the Elijah McCoy Midwest Regional U.S. Patent and Trademark Office was opened in Detroit, Michigan. So there's actually a patent and trademark office where you can go patent and trademark your stuff in his name.
Now, see, now that is a very valuable tidbit of information because we have the U.S. patent.
Yes.
Where of course the Caucasian nationality runs everything, but it's just a good feeling to know that we actually have an African American patent office that you can go to.
Yeah, that is awesome. That's
awesome.
Because I never knew any. This is why it's so good to have these conversations, because none of the people, like I say, if I've heard of their names, I it's one of those things like, did I hear them before? Like, you don't know because no one has brought light to it in the form.
Or you didn't know it was a black man.
Yeah.
Right.
A woman who did it.
But just to hear that, give that information, like unless we teach ourselves and keep it going, we won't know this. And these people are just gonna just vanish. It's like it's not it never happened.
Now I wonder if somebody will actually create because we already know it's the museum, but to really write a book from the beginning of time to now about all the African American inventors, educators.
It's going to be as tall as the Sears House in Chicago, honey.
I'm just saying. Yeah. Because and that's one of the things I really, really want to do this year is go to the Museum of African American History. And they say it takes like 3 days
to get through it.
That's the one in DC.
True.
Yeah.
That because I think it's
that's the one we went to.
4 floors.
Yeah, we went to that one. It's really nice.
It's huge.
Oh, you guys have gone?
Yes.
So nice.
They start from like I can't remember, but it starts from like
slavery,
from past to current.
Yeah.
So it builds up to like
as
current things
floor.
That's going. It doesn't stay in like in the past. It moves up to current people. Like I want to say even Beyonce was probably like
Oprah Winfrey.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because I know it used to be free. Was it free when you guys went?
I think you have to when we went.
It was free, but you had to sign up.
You had to sign up to get on in there.
And it's hard to sign up.
Yeah. So
I heard.
2:00 in the morning.
Same thing. Because we're missing in action, honey.
Yeah.
So before we close out today, this is beneficial to all of us. I want to give a shout out to Black history, to our family, our lineage. So my great-grandfather, you all's grandfather, John Allen Wright, is documented in history in a book called Minds Stayed on Freedom. I'm sorry, I don't have a slide. I should have been a little bit more prepared. But our ancestor, we all met him, so we were lucky to meet one of our ancestors who made history, was one of the first African-American families in Mississippi to allow his children to integrate into the school system, even though, it was a very scary time. It was a time where it was very clear that it was not wanted, but in the name of his children deserving a better education and better opportunities, he integrated with pride and courage his girls and his son into the Mississippi public school system. So scary time,
Wow.
but he stood on the front lines and demanded better for his children. And, you know, here we are talking about being able to say something about somebody in our family. So again, John Allen White, thank you for your contribution to Black
Yes,
Yes.
to Black history.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you,
We'll put a
Granddaddy.
link
And
in
our
there with the
parents,
book.
think
also.
about our parents who actually they were the ones who went through it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I
we'll
remember the
sure to make
story.
sure- we'll include a link to Karonica. I'll make sure you have a link to the book that we can
Okay.
link in the description, and also a photograph of our beloved.
Oh yes, gotta have a
Yes.
This is a
And
wonderful episode.
But
I know.
I've got the information about the series. So it's called Everything's Gonna Be All White. It's
Oh, wow.
on Showtime.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's like I think it comes on every Friday. But just prepare if you're anything like me, you're gonna be like the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The whole time.
I'm
like,
gonna check. I'm definitely gonna check. I'm definitely gonna check it out because I'm interested in what Clarissa was saying about the Native Americans and what you were saying. Like all this stuff is like interesting, and I also think this is something because as we know, Black History is not just the month of February; it's every day.
Right.
So I think that it's our duty as Conversations and Opinion to have these conversations often on our podcast, like just to bring light to different people and have different cultures of what their struggles were. And, you know,
Definitely.
and so we can have understanding because I truly believe if we understand each other's struggle, we can, you know, we'll have more
Respect
Yes.
for one another. And it's funny you should say that because I believe, again, it might have been the second episode, because you know how we're always talking about reparations. And the indigenous people, they was like, they were going to pay them, I think, $50 million or something in reparations. And he was like, no, what we want is our land.
Well, that would be all of the land. Now,
Right.
Right.
I'm like,
So that ain't gonna happen.
my God. But the fact that he said they're not concerned about the money, they want the land because the land is more powerful than money.
Yeah.
Yes, they
So
always
that-
understood the excitement.
They understood
And that's a really
Yeah.
important because
Yeah.
you got to think about it. Even within our family, we are our ancestors are also Indian in our family too. So like and they some of them still are on the reservation. So to know these things, like this is important because it's like as Black Americans, we have so many sides of ourselves, you know, that we really don't kind of like recognize sometimes, but we do. And so that is our history also.
And did you guys know that, is it indigenous or Indians don't have to pay taxes?
I think
Indigenous, y'all, the term, and just to educate us all, they're Native Americans and they're indigenous people. So the word Indian for us has now been, let's erase that from our vocabulary, just because it is a word that is no longer accepted by them, and we love and respect our brown brothers and sisters. So why the Redskins had to change their name, the football team, because that was inappropriate. Because think about that.
Right.
If you think about that.
Right.
No. But Karonica said something that I want to touch on too, because Black history is like she said Black history every day.
Absolutely.
One of our cousins, Andre Wright. Dang, that Wright name just keeps on giving, don't it?
Come on, Wright.
Yes.
Andre Wright is one of our cousins who has a sweatshirt line in Foot Action across the country, the Foot Action stores, and he has an exclusive design that says Black History Year.
Humanize My Hoodie is honored to announce Black History Year. Black History Year tells the real stories of those behind us. It eliminates the confinement of having only 28 days to celebrate, while highlighting how history is continuously created. Black stories are to be honored every day of the year, 365 days, no days off. Join us as we kick off this amazing year full of Black history, Black joy, and Black liberation.
So Black History is not just this month. Black History is an every day, all the time thing. So I'm really grateful, y'all, to be part of something that where we're recognizing things outside of normal popular culture. Let's talk about some stuff of substance, and here we are.
Right.
Yeah. Yes.
And we'll put a link for our cousin, hint, if anybody
Yes.
wants to, you know.
Yes. Yes.
But we'll put everything down.
Go ahead and support.
Right.
Please support.
But I just think that all this has been educating. And I know that for me, like I said, if I've heard these names before, I couldn't tell you if you paid me what they did. And what, you know, so just I think that having these conversations, and we will have more with different people of different races and, you know, cultures, just to see, you know, we want to understand everybody.
Yeah.
And we want to be, if you want to be understood, you got to understand everybody else's struggle.
That's
so,
right.
Correct.
With that being said, please subscribe, like, comment. We want some conversations with you.
Yes.
And with that being said, thank you for chatting with Conversations in a Band. See you next time.
Bye.